Now, you guys know we if you watched our coverage that we weren't fans of this debate. But we got to pick a winner, and it certainly wasn't the moderator. It certainly wasn't you. You learned almost nothing about the overwhelmingly important issues in the country: climate change, money and politics, income inequality. The list goes on and on. Right? TPP. You didn't learn anything about that. So it's not you. It's not the moderator. I thought she did a terrible job. So that leaves Pence and Kaine. So in the beginning, Kaine is interrupting nonstop. You know Americans, they get touchy about that. They're like, oh, that seems rude. Well, Mike Pence supported all these horrible policies, including the Iraq War, where hundreds of thousands of people died. That seems rude to me, right? No, but Tim Kaine interrupted. So they get into the minutia of that and stuff. But I thought Tim Kaine, yes, he did do that. But in his interruptions, yes, he takes a personal hit on his popularity. But at the end of the day, got the message through. Look at all these terrible things that Trump has done and said. And you don't have an answer for it, Mike. And he said at one point, I've now asked you to defend Trump 6 different times, and you have not done so. And Pence, his answer to that was, yeah. Anyway, so on to another topic.
He said, yes, I will. And he's like, okay, here's one. And Mike Pence was like, gone.
No, did not defend him. Because it is indefensible. The only defense that Mike Pence would say is, every once in a while, Tim Kaine would give it a direct quote about, let's say, Mexicans are rapists or criminals, or I'm smart for not paying my taxes and stuff. And Mike Pence would do the smug shaking of his head.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. That's not true.
That's absurd.
That's absurd. No, but Mike, it is absurd. It's absurd. But it is direct quotes from Donald Trump. It is, in fact, true. So at the end of the day, because of that, if you just care about the politics of this, I think Tim Kaine won the debate.
I think in terms of, to the extent that this debate could change the conversation or at least stop it from going in a direction that one of the candidates wouldn't have wanted, I think that Tim Kaine did a better job. Obviously, Hillary Clinton's strategy is keep reminding people of how terrible Trump is and all the terrible things he said. That's why most of her ads are just Trump speaking and people looking at it. And so Tim Kaine brought up all of those examples, and he also reminded people about the investigation into the 3 pages of his taxes, his connections with Putin, although he tried to go a little bit harder on that and he got diffused. I think he did a good job at that. So Mike Pence instead wanted to do the normal Republican line that you've heard for 30 years, that regulation and high taxes are crushing Americans and we just need to be stronger and punch people in the face on the global scale more. And that's all we need to do. And then remind people, as the GOP announcement ahead of the debate said that he would, about her scandals. And so he brought up the emails and he brought up the Clinton Foundation. But to the extent that they're both trying to bring up the worst aspects of the other side, I think Mike Pence did a way worse job than Donald Trump does in bringing up the emails and the foundation. He does a worse job than a lot of the reporting on TYT does in talking about that stuff. It was the weakest attacks against those eminently attackable subjects that I think we've seen. And to that extent, if that was his job, I think he failed horribly at it.
I think the winner tonight, no doubt about it, was Halliburton, Booz Allen, and Raytheon, right? So the surveillance state and the military-industrial complex. Because all this was to be afraid of stuff that you don't need to be afraid of. None of it. Terrorism is not a problem in America. It's just not we've talked about, more people die slipping in the bathtub than die from terrorism in America. So so that's who won. They kept us sufficiently afraid. And the people who actually do have grievances with this economy, they're totally left out of this discussion. But that is, again, that's what they want, okay? The system has failed. Half the country, in the richest country in the world, half the population is poor, okay? And Hillary kind of those emails that got released, she kind of semi-identified the problem. If you're a person living in your mom's basement and you're a barista and you don't have any promise of anything better than that, yeah, maybe you're hoping for a revolution. Yes, maybe you are. Maybe that's what we need. But what they're giving us is more of the same. And every 4 years, it gets worse and worse. And before we were given Dan Quayle, and then it was John McCain, and then it was Mitt Romney and Sarah Palin, and now it's this jagoff, Donald Donald Trump, and the next one's going to be worse. Hillary Clinton isn't going to make things better. It's time to think outside the box, because this is what they're giving us, and this is why half the country isn't paying attention. And there is a revolution coming. Either it's going to be one you want or one you don't want. Look what's happening in Poland right now, because when the political class turns their back on their own people, the workers, which is what happened when Bill Clinton did NAFTA, deregulated the telecommunications industry, deregulated the Wall Street. When that happens, right-wingers and fascism starts to take over, which is what you're seeing happen right now. And there is absolutely no answer from the left. None.
Okay. So I'll bring those two different facets that we just discussed together. So Hillary Clinton is the prototypical establishment candidate. There's no question about that. The Clintons have been in politics and in power for decades now, and they know almost everyone in power. They know the defense contractors. They've got donors from Wall Street, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Donald Trump's main claim to fame is, I'm going to bring change. At least I'm not a standard politician. Okay, and in this VP debate, what did we see? We saw Mike Pence making two arguments, which is what John talked about. The two arguments were peace through strength. Wait, I've been hearing that for 40 years now, right? And have we got peace? No, we got endless wars. Isn't that interesting? That goes to Jimmy's point. Who are the winners? Halliburton, Raytheon, etc. So as they keep telling you peace through strength, we never get that peace. They're like, no, right around the corner from the next war is when you'll get peace. So that's what Mike Pence offers you. What happened to change? I thought the Republicans were now for change. That doesn't sound like change. That sounds like the exact same thing. And on the economic side, what was his proposal? Trickle-down economics. I cut taxes for me and for Donald Trump and for the really, really rich, and maybe it'll trickle down on your head. Well, it's been 40 years, man. Something's raining down on our head, but it isn't prosperity. So at the end of the day, we're stuck with these two establishment guys. Now, within the context of this debate in politics, I'm with John. I think Tim Kaine did a marginally better job than Mike Pence. By the way, I'll tell you something that the conservatives might be amused by. It could be that the polling comes out and says Pence won the debate because he was less rude.
Luntz's focus group went 22-4 for Pence.
See, that's right. He seemed like a gentleman, right? Oh, now, don't be absurd, Tim. Let's all be friendly and gentlemanly. Here, we'll have a scotch later, right? Right. Now, that doesn't mean that his side won the debate, because it's not Pence versus Kaine. It's Trump versus Clinton. So Kaine knew that going in, and he kind of took a bullet for the team here, saying, yeah, I'll be the bad guy, I'll be rude, but I will get these points through to you in your head with all these millions of people watching that Trump is a really bad guy you can't vote for. So you can have the focus groups, and that's fair, and you can have the polling, and we always talk about, hey, listen, you should trust, what the polling says if it is a scientific poll. So that is context. But even so, remember, they had a job to do, which was to support the top of the ticket. I think Kaine did a better job at that than Pence did.